Good evening and welcome to Candid Conversation, sponsored by the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. We are excited to talk about the 2021 Gongwer Newsmaker of the Year, and we're happy to have the executive editor and publisher of Gongwer, none other than Zach Gorchow. Zach, welcome to the broadcast, and please tell us all about the Gongwer Newsmaker of the Year.
Hi, Edward. Thanks for having me. So we started our Newsmaker of the Year feature in 2009. Basically, the idea being we wanted to write an in-depth story, or what we call a deep dive, about the biggest story in Michigan government and politics for that year. Of course, that's what Gongwer does, is we cover Michigan government and politics very closely. And we had done, at the time, we were doing sort of an every other week feature on someone who had been in the news, a legislator or a department director or so forth. And we thought, why not take this to another level and have it be for the whole year, the person who most influenced Michigan government and politics for the year. So usually when we get toward November, I'm always kind of thinking about it during the course of the year, who's sort of in contention, what would make sense. And as we get close to November, we start talking about it as a staff. And it's important, too, to know it's not an award per se or a commendation. It's more just a sort of a statement of assessment by us that we believe this person or this people were the most influential in Michigan government and politics for the year. And I will say, I went back and forth a little bit on this one. We had, basically the budget was probably the big competitor with the Redistricting Commission, because we had this unprecedented amount of money washing into the state through increased revenues and federal aid. And so we gave that some serious consideration. But ultimately, looking at the course of the year and the dramatic change in how Michigan's maps are being drawn by the Redistricting Commission, it really was the clear choice that the members of the commission were the biggest newsmakers in Michigan government and politics for the year. It obviously started early in the year and then went into high gear probably round about mid-August, early September. And it felt like it was, really big daily news, whether it was members of the commission sort of starting out the district drawing process, making a change here, making a change there, the discussions about, compliance with the new constitutional language, with federal law. It seemed the whole gamut of the state's power structure, so to speak, was really hanging on every move of the commission. We obviously have 148 legislative seats and a whole lot of incumbents who are looking at where they were going to run for re-election potentially, or for the Senate or for Congress. That goes as well for our members of Congress too. And so this was really just the dominant story. And you look at the long-term impact, this is obviously setting the table for state elections and ultimately for the legislature and our congressional delegation for the next 10 years. This isn't just a one-year kind of thing. So it was an incredible story. I'm one of only a few reporters in the Capitol Press Corps who has covered multiple redistricting cycles. I was around for both the 2001 and 2011 reapportionment processes, which were led by the legislature at the time. Obviously, a complete difference from how this process worked in every way. And so this was a huge story, an all-encompassing story, and that's why we had Ben Solis, whom the commissioners, of course, know very well, who was hanging on every word and writing about it at the commission, really took charge and wrote this story, getting into kind of the ins and outs, the behind the scenes, and how this process came together.
Thank you so much, Zach, for that introduction. It's my privilege and honor to bring part of the commission with us today, all the way from Interlochen, Michigan, where it's freezing, they said up there, but but having the privilege of being warm at 86 degrees is none other than the distinguished semi-retired attorney on the commission, Commissioner Steve Lett. From the Cereal City of Battle Creek, and one who was always adept and caring and did a lot to bring the commission together is none other than Commissioner Cynthia Orton. And from the capital city of Lansing, we call him MC, but he never gave us the initials, so we just say MC. Is always rocking the mic and smiling at each and every one he comes in contact with. Welcome our Commissioner MC Rothhorn. And last but not least, from Wayne County, the chairperson of the MICRC and an attorney in her own right, we're happy to have Commissioner Rebecca Szetela. Commissioners, welcome to the broadcast, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
All right, great. Now you've heard from Zach, and you've heard about what goes into being a Newsmaker of the Year. And as a commission, when you hear the criteria and the competition that you are up against, with regards to the huge amount of money coming into Michigan, share with us your perspective with regards to that and how you felt about the entire process as it relates to the redistricting that took place here in Michigan for the first time ever.
Well, I'll lead off. I think that the commission being picked as the Newsmaker of the Year, contrary to what Zach has said, was an easy call because the budget has so much money, they don't know what to do with it all, and they're tripping over themselves on how to spend it. So we, on the other hand, had to decide some hard questions, and we did. And we came together as a commission collegially, not always super friendly, but we worked through it with the help of Commissioner Orton. And when it came down to crunch time, the commission was of the opinion, and we followed through with it, that we wanted to have collegial maps drawn. We wanted to have everybody have their input, and we wanted to pick the best maps and do the best work we could. I was looking at a comment by Anthony Eade, Commissioner Eade, and he made a comment that I like, and that is, don't let perfection get in the way of good. And the maps are not perfect. We know that, but they are good maps. We worked hard on them. We took into consideration the 7 criteria that we were supposed to, and I think we came up with a good product. I'm done.
Okay, well, I'll just say something. I thought it was interesting, Zach, listening to you as you were talking about that some people were hanging on every word, listening to what we were doing, because I think we really weren't aware. We just had our heads down and we're doing the work, is what I feel like. So Newsmaker of the Year is kind of surprising, but yet I can see that what we did is having a big impact. So it does make sense. And for good or bad, we did make news, didn't we? I would just like to say one more thing. Steve said, they're not perfect, but what is perfect? Maybe they're perfect to someone. We had to make compromises and work together, try to represent all the citizens of Michigan. Maybe there's one citizen out there that thinks they're perfect, and perfect would be different to everyone. So just wanted to say that.
Commissioner Rothhorn or Szetela?
Yeah, I would just add that, it's an honor to be picked as the Newsmaker of the Year, obviously. And I do think that we did have this great effect on Michigan politics, because this is the first time that we've had open and transparent redistricting in the state. So I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, and I'll just say, you're right, over 30,000 comments, right? It's not just that, right? We're randomly selected citizens listening and taking into consideration as we drew these, right? These good maps, listening and taking in 30,000 different comments. It was pretty, yeah, I know there's no wonder. There was a lot of, I appreciate the designation too. And it is no wonder, right? 30,000 people and drawn by citizens doing it all. Yeah. With a lot of good help from the citizens and from the staff, but it was, yeah, hard decisions like what was said before.
Zach, we noticed that Gongwer placed a designation on its page for redistricting. There was an intentional focus with regards to redistricting. Why did you do that for your members, and what was the impetus behind that?
Great question. So I mentioned I had covered the 2001 and 2011 redistrictings, and I can tell you, particularly with 2001, outside of maybe a 4-block radius around the Capitol, there just seemed to be no interest around the state back then. No one was engaged. No one really knew that it was happening. If you weren't heavily involved in politics, you just weren't involved. And that was sort of true with 2011 too, although there was a little more engagement from the public then. But when the constitutional amendment began to take hold in 2017 and 2018, I was just amazed at the rampant interest from the public. I mean, I had friends of mine from high school who don't follow politics who were really excited about it, really into it. All over. The people I knew who work on campaigns made the decision, I'm not going to work on a candidate campaign. I'm going to work on constitutional amendment because I think that's more important. And I thought that energy that happened in 2018 carried over into this process because, like you mentioned, the number of comments, the social media, of course, is a huge change. And yes, social media existed in 2011, but not like this, where people were analyzing the map drawing in real time. The sort of democratization of redistricting technology is a huge factor. In 2011, only really advanced political consultants had access to what was extremely boutique, expensive technology. And now anybody can go to Dave's redistricting website or any of the other platforms that are out there and mess around with it and give it a try. So all of these things kind of came together to demystify the process. And so that's my long lead up to say, we knew there was going to be intense interest in redistricting, especially when you think of magnify that with our subscribers who are not the average member of the public, but people whose jobs depend on what's going on in Michigan government and politics. And so, we thought, let's have a designated page where we'll have all the stories we write about that are there. We can put links to the maps, both draft and proposed and final up there. We'll get a link to the board that'll have the members, their hometowns, their affiliations, meeting date information, just so that it's there. I think one of the things we found is people love to be able to just, one click, find what they need. And if they had to, go through the search system looking for articles, that could have been frustrating and inconvenient. So we really saw it as a good service to our subscribers based on this incredible, really unprecedented interest in redistricting that was out there. And I think it paid off because we've rolled out a number of new services over the years, and this was one of the ones we got some of the best feedback on. People were really pleased that it was available.
Well, great. Well, Zach, since you're here and you always do late breaking news from Gongwer to your viewership for readership, we want to give you some late breaking news that will be shared with the commission next week from our Glenn Gareth survey that we just think is astronomical. By a margin of 78.7% to 4.7%, voters that were aware of the redistricting changes said Michigan should stay with the redistricting commission. There's your late breaking news.
Well, I'm not surprised. Look, first of all, voters passed it pretty decisively as these things go in 2018. It's hard to, what was it, about 60% of the vote was yes. It's hard to get 60% of the public to agree on many things these days. And, I think there is frustration out there when you look at whether it's the Democrats in Illinois or Republicans in Ohio, although the Ohio process is a little wonky right now. But we've seen, when it's legislative controlled right now, both sides are really trying to skew the districts to their advantage as much as possible. And it's, one of the things, Ben and I talked about and we put in the story was that, we were very much in the weeds of every moment with the redistricting commission. If you step back 50,000 feet, as some of the national publications did, and as we did with this story, you could see Michigan has sort of emerged as one of the few states with a lot of competitive, relatively congressional districts in the nation. I can't remember the exact number, but some of the national analysts out there said that the number of really competitive congressional seats so far is something like 20. And 4 of them or so, maybe even 5, depending on what happens, are in Michigan. That's, a really interesting story. And I think that's what the public would like is, a chance to see strong candidates from both parties where possible, and, may the best candidate win, as opposed to sliced and diced and, 20% of the people who vote in a primary end up picking their next representative, senator, or member of Congress, because the general election is just, a foregone conclusion. So it doesn't surprise me. The group that got the constitutional amendment passed had a pretty good name, Voters Not Politicians, because, that sounds pretty good, right? If you're a voter, you'd rather have yourself in charge than politicians. So, I'm sure that there are some entities out there that would like to think about changes to this, but of course that means they've got to go convince the public in a statewide vote to change it. And I think it's going to be pretty difficult, because anything that comes across as looking like it's insiders trying to reclaim the system is going to have a lot of pushback.
I think, following up with that comment, Zach, I think that this process has shown that, number one, the petition process can work, and it did in this instance. It also has shown that we as a commission came together and did exactly what the Voters Not Politicians wanted us to do under the petition process. So there's 2 things that are going on. Number one, the petition process works in Michigan, regardless of what the legislature may or may not want to do with it. And once that process is done, at least as far as we're concerned, we followed through with it and did the best job we could. And I think the outcome shows that.
All right. Any other comments or questions or with regards to the process before we we only have one question in the chat. Any other comments or questions that anyone would like to comment on, commissioners? All right, let's just take this one question, and it comes from Michael Stanley. Don't all the commissioners have access to the legal consultations? Why the FOIA lawsuit? Anybody want to take that on?
Well, I would just say, since it's a lawsuit, I don't think we can comment.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the first question about the access to legal consultation. So I wouldn't know how to answer that because I don't really understand what we're being asked, honestly.
All right. Well, Michael, we just wanted you to know that we were not shying away from your question. We're an open and transparent broadcast. And so when we can answer the questions, we do. But that was the only question that we have. Oh, here we go again. We have another one. Let's see. This is from David Gordon. And this is more or less a comment. Oh, here it is. This is good. We got now it's just to start to come in. What is the term for the commissioners? Will there be more selected?
I can take that one. So the term for the commissioners is from the point of the November of the year that the census information is released until we complete our work. So until we're done drawing and adopting and defending maps. So that may depend on if there's any lawsuits or not, but it's a year to 2 years approximately. And then new commissioners will be drawn for the next census cycle in about 10 years. So it's an every 10-year process of drawing new commissioners.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, we don't have any more questions. We do want to share something where we want people to know that we want your feedback. It's very important that the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission has your feedback. I repeat, your feedback as it relates to the new redistricting process. You can provide feedback in the public comment portal at michigan.gov/MICRC, or you can mail us at MICRC, P.O. Box 30318, Lansing, Michigan 48909. Once again, the P.O. Box is 30318, Lansing, Michigan 48909. And we have another comment. Thanks for this conversation. I struggle reading. Auditory is my way to go. My friend Mike in Kalkaska got me interested by his work. Whereas voters, not politicians, keep up the great work. Thank you for your efforts, is what Don Jones says. And then Mary Jo wants to know what is the email address for the commission, and it's redistricting@michigan.gov. And then we'll put that up there so she can see that. All right. Once again, we want to thank our distinguished panel for being with us. None other than the great person from Gongwer himself, the executive editor and publisher, Zach Gorchow. And then we want to thank our commissioners, Commissioner MC Rothhorn, Commissioner Cynthia Orton, Commissioner Rebecca Szetela, and Commissioner Steve Lett. Once again, this has been another edition of Candid Conversations, and we look forward to engaging you next week as we'll talk about the Glenn Gariff survey information as it relates to the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Thanks so much for listening, and have a good night.